guys, Fred and Sheila McCoy, Hatfield McCoy Museum, fredmccoy.com. Sheila's behind the camera.
Hi guys, hope you're having a great morning.
Guy was joking with me the other day. He said, "Hi guys," and so I thought about starting to say, "Hey friends, hey audience, hey this and that," but too far gone now. But
change it up on them.
yeah, we'll keep it at guys. Hey guys. Hatfield McCoy 150th Anniversary Edition Henry Big Boy 44 Magnum Rifle. Guys, our pictures didn't turn out good. You get a chance, all you gotta do is Google Henry Hatfield McCoy rifles. Henry Rifle, Henry Firearms Company made a Hatfield McCoy commemorative rifle and pistols.
Okay.
Hatfield McCoy 150th Anniversary Edition Firearm Collector's Guide 44 Magnum has partnered with American Legacy Firearms to showcase the Hatfield McCoy 150th Anniversary Edition of the Henry Big Boy Rifle. Historically and artistically depicting the long-lasting quarrel between these two families. This firearm is made of and engraved on the Big Boy 44 Magnum. To ensure our accuracy, we have had the blessings of the direct descendants of both families to do this project. They've helped contribute to the history, the art, and can assure you the excellent addition to your collection. Wow. Again, you can go to Henry Hatfield McCoy Rifle, and this story will come up with all the pictures in it. Now, Henry Rifle says, along with this other company, that they worked with direct descendants from both families to do this project. They have contributed to the art and the history. I'm gonna read you the next paragraph, then I'll show you the story itself. But we first began working with Mr. Rio Hatfield, who is a descendant of Devil Anse Hatfield and long-time firearm collector. He recently received his own Hatfield McCoy rifle and was very satisfied with his purchase. In fact, he stated it was the most well-developed piece of artwork that he had ever seen. In addition, we have also added a unique touch to this rifle by placing his and Mr. Ron McCoy's signature on both sides of the stock. In terms of quality, craftsmanship, we are proud of the state and see both families. I'd love to have one. I would pay big money for it if I had to get a loan, but couldn't give me one. I wouldn't have it because of those two signatures. Now some people says, "Oh, he's just so jealous of Rio Hatfield and Ron McCoy, Bo McCoy, and William Keith Hatfield." Guys, if you haven't seen our other videos, I'm veering off here and I'm already getting hand signals, but let me explain some stuff. My little wife, she don't understand sometimes you've got to explain things, and it may sound like you're being negative, but it's just telling the truth. It's telling the truth. These guys, it's 2024. These guys came in sight in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003. These guys have had 24 years to disperse nonsense and hatred. Now, don't sound like it. Don't sound like it. Peace treaty. Don't sound like hatred does it. It is. Nothing but hatred. They have caused more conflict in the Hatfields and McCoy families from back home and here in Kentucky and West Virginia than any of us could have ever caused with each other. We've never had this kind of stuff. I'm gonna fill you in on just a little bit of history real fast in case this is your first time viewing. Let's talk about Mr. Rio Hatfield. First, we begin working with Mr. Rio Hatfield, who is a direct descendant of Devil Anse Hatfield and a longtime firearms collector. Now guys, either Rio told them that he's a direct descendant of Devil Anse Hatfield, or Henry Rifle didn't do their research. And I'll tell you who, we brought this topic up once before on TA Services, trucking company, where Rio's bio says that he was a Vietnam War veteran. Boots on the ground, Vietnam War. We called and asked him about it. The videotape's up. You can watch it, but he starts backstroking, which we knew he would because we knew that he wasn't a Vietnam War veteran. He backstrokes. And he says that somebody done that on his bio. Somebody must have made a mistake. Well, we asked about contacting whoever wrote his bio, and he gets real upset. He don't want us contacting nobody about his bio because usually you write your own bios. Now, since then, we went to Jack Hatfield's museum in Saran, West Virginia. If you'll click on Hatfield McCoy Foundation, Museum Foundation, you'll see up at the top where it says About Us. And of course, it'll be changed when this video comes out. And that's great. At least we're making corrections. But look at Jack Hatfield's bio on Rio Hatfield. Look at Rio Hatfield's bio. Got his picture. Of course, Rio says he don't like publicity, but we've got hundreds of pictures of him over the years. But he don't like publicity. But it's got Rio Hatfield's bio that says Vietnam War veteran. Again, same bio, same wording that was in the TA that he wanted to blame on the TA people for they must have made a mistake. Well, I guess Jack Hatfield made the same mistake on his website on the Hatfield McCoy Museum. Let's go back to Rio Hatfield. So everything Rio says, of course, like I said once before, when you find somebody in a mistruth, you tend not to trust that person as much as you once did probably, or you would.
Okay, that's supposed to be the Hatfield McCoy Foundation.
Hatfield McCoy Museum Foundation.
Oh, Museum Foundation.
I think that's what it's under. It'll come up. So there's just one thing that Rio Hatfield has been incorrect on or falsely stated, pretended, make-believe, wrote into history. Let's talk about the big one. Let's talk about Hubert Bay McCoy. And I know people say, oh, is he on Hubert Bay McCoy again? Guys, most fascinating and sad story ever. In 2011, Rio Hatfield started that rumor when he gave an interview to Dean King, author Dean King. And we've got a video on it, extensive videos, 3 or 4 videos. Go watch them. But Rio Hatfield is the man that made that story up. That's where it originated from. Rio Hatfield says that his grandfather was shot in the back 3 times by a man in a brothel, and he turned around and shot and killed the man, and it just so happened to be a McCoy. Boys, he shot and killed Hubert Bay McCoy on the streets of Maitland, shot him in the back of the head after Hubert Bay had punched him. He's unarmed. He just punched him. And Alan Hatfield, also with little man syndrome, pulls his gun and shoots. Kills him, shoots him back of the head, sentence of 5 years hard labor. But Rio Hatfield, through the years, anywhere that anybody would listen, talking to a woman the other day, and she said that Rio was telling her father that one year, that story, at the Hatfield McCoy reunion or Hillbilly Days or something, and it was her father, not her grandfather, it was her father, and said he couldn't wait to get away from him. He knew what he was saying was nonsense, was bullcrap, but he didn't want to call him out on it, make a scene, so it said he couldn't wait to get away from him. He didn't want to hear that. Well, we heard it. We've heard it since 2011. Hubert Bay's family's heard it. It's been spread anywhere that people would listen. Now, that's the man that gave, according to this article, we first began working with me at Mr. Rio Hatfield, who is a direct descendant of Devil Anse Hatfield. Let's discuss that. Direct descendant of Devil Anse Hatfield. Well, I'm sorry, but he says in Granite Magazine and all these interviews with Phoebe Judge and anybody that would listen, he says that his grandfather was Alan Hatfield, the chief of police in Maitland, West Virginia, the man that shot the McCoy in the brothel after he shot him in the back 3 times. Never was shot in the back, 1 time, much less 3. Never had no bullets taken out. Never buried with bullets. It's the most fabricated and disgusting story. And then he says in this peace treaty that he signed that he didn't like McCoy's on principle. Now, I'm half Hatfield. I'm Kentucky Hatfield and Kentucky McCoy. So I'm both. Didn't like McCoys on principle, but you will never ever hear a story where a McCoy, and if we're wrong, please tell us, because we'll do a story on it. But you'll never find a story where a McCoy has slandered or written or spoken in the history about a Hatfield as bad as being in a brothel and shooting somebody 3 times in the back. Fabricated story, made up. Rio Hatfield. He says he's Alan Hatfield's grandson. Well, guess what? Rio's father was also named Rio. Then you had Alan Hatfield, that was his grandpa. And then you had Wallace Hatfield. And then you had Valentine Hatfield. Not West Virginia, not Devil Ance's brother. This would have been the Kentucky. This would have been what was known as River Wall Hatfield. Okay. There was a River Wall and there was a Uncle Wall from West Virginia. This River Wall was from Kentucky. And then Valentine's father was, I'm going to skip off this for 1 second here. Here is the copy of the peace treaty. She'll make a copy of it for you. Here's the famous peace treaty that Rio Hatfield, Bo McCoy, and Ron McCoy signed in June the 14th of 2003. June the 14th, 2003. I'm just going to read you the first line. But this is what made these 3 guys famous. This is what put them into the history books. This is what put them up there in the Pike County tourism, that, hey, we'll promote these guys. They can speak for the Hatfields and McCoys of Eastern Kentucky and Southern West Virginia, since we can't get nobody locally to do it, since everybody gets along locally. Nobody wanted to take a stand, and even the West Virginia Hatfields. You know, when I refer to West Virginia Hatfields back in that day, I'm talking about Devil Ance's bunch. Me and Sheila's met some of the nicest West Virginia Hatfields, even doing these videos.
Well, sure.
They may not agree with everything in our videos, but the majority of them knows that we're telling the truth.
Yeah.
They just can't let their guard down as far as Devil Ance. They want to keep them a hero. And they got one if they'd use them. Henry D. Hatfield, the governor, 14th governor of West Virginia. That's who you need your monument of. Let's read this first line here in this peace treaty. We, the descendants of William Anderson Hatfield and Randolph McCoy. We, the descendants of William Anderson Hatfield and Randolph McCoy. There's not one descendant on here. Show the bottom. There's not one descendant unless Ron McCoy and Bo McCoy is related to Devil Ance, because Rio Hatfield's definitely not a descendant of Devil Ance Hatfield. It's not.
I agree.
That's a she's agreeing with me.
Yeah.
Guys, when you've got evidence, it's hard to disagree. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but these 3 gentlemen don't, and William Keith right in there with them, don't always tell the accurate, true story. Publicity stunts, attention, narcissism at its worst. Let's finish here.
Okay.
Rio Hatfield, who was a descendant of Devil Ance Hatfield, a longtime farms collector, recently received his own. Let's go down here to Ron McCoy. In addition, we have also added a unique touch to this rifle by placing his and Mr. Ron McCoy's signatures on both sides of the stock. Let's talk about Ron McCoy. Let's talk about Ron McCoy. Pause it there for 1 second. I've got to get a board. Go get a board. I want to show you, we're talking about Ron McCoy, who I like to call Ron Selkirk McCoy. That should have been his middle name. Poor old Randall McCoy, like he wasn't treated bad enough alive. It's hard to believe. And you know, Sheila and I have met or talked to several Floyd McCoy descendants, Jim McCoy descendants, Randall McCoy descendants, great-great-great-grandsons. Again, we've never seen no DNAs on Ron McCoy, Bo McCoy, Rio Hatfield, William Keith Hatfield. We've never seen that. And we have reason to believe that there's a lot of discrepancies. It's easy to clear it up with the DNA, but we won't go there. I want to read you this story. This was done by a staff writer, Crystal Ripkolsky. We've covered this story before, but I want to tell you a little bit about Ron McCoy so you'll have a better understanding as to who signed this so-called peace treaty. Now remember, in 1928, Jim McCoy and Tennis Hatfield, Devil Ance's youngest son, and Randall McCoy's oldest son, they shook hands and called a truce. It was over. 1976, same thing between James McCoy, son of Uriah McCoy, and Willis Hatfield, Devil Ance's only living son at the time. 1976, they signed a peace treaty, dedicated McCoy Monument. Now, we talked about how Rio come into the picture. Rio, signed this peace treaty along with these two other guys. That's when he made his introduction, his fame, and I ain't gonna say fortune. He made his fortune other ways besides this, but this is what really upped his reputation, and everybody thought he was a man of authority, a man of character, a man of dignity. If you'll read TA's a thing of the president of the company, says Rio's a man of character. Wow. Man's got low expectations, or he doesn't know the man's true character. Ron McCoy, how'd he come about? In 2001, Ron and Bo McCoy, Ron McCoy of Durham, North Carolina. Sometimes I get confused and I say Raleigh. It's Durham. Ron McCoy from Durham, North Carolina, and Bo McCoy, a minister from Waycross, Georgia. They come to Kentucky and they filed a lawsuit against a man named John Vance, the great grandson of Crazy Jim Vance, Uncle Jim Vance, Bad Jim Vance, all these names for Jim Vance. They filed a lawsuit because they wanted access to take a tour bus up to John Vance's property to show these three McCoy graves off. He didn't want to charge people to look at graves. Up to that point, nobody had a problem going to visit those graves. You go, single car could go up there anytime you want, or vehicle. He just didn't want people charging people to come and see people's graves, even if they were McCoys and he was a Vance. John has since passed away. He was a good friend of mine and Sheila's. We thought a lot of him because John was a man's man. John, tell you like it is. That's how Ron McCoy and Bo McCoy made their introduction into the Hatfield McCoy feud world. No Hatfields and McCoys from back home wanted to be on the tourism, wanted to be on the board, wanted to have anything to do with this. My partner and I was detectives, and they called us years ago, many years ago. Got a TV station come want to do a story on Hatfield and McCoy. This was before the tourism ever took hold and took place. We had no desire. Neither one of us spoke up. Neither one of us. We canceled. We told him busy, couldn't do it. In fact, we had a lot more important things than that going on at the time. But Ron and Bo McCoy, if it tells you anything about their integrity, their character, they filed a lawsuit against a man and his wife wanting access to their property. Now, this man's got a price on his property. Anybody can buy it any time. They said, oh, it's too high. Well, I don't explain filing a lawsuit. But they become famous. And they become famous because Ron McCoy says, I'd have to be a marketing genius to get this kind of publicity. He was. First thing he done is named it, the first time the Hatfields and McCoys were back in court in years. Hatfields and McCoys. It was two McCoys from Georgia and North Carolina that filed a lawsuit against a Vance. How do you get Hatfields and McCoys? John Vance was not a Hatfield. Last thing I'm going to read here. I'll tell you how Ron McCoy felt. And you know what you've got? You've got two peons with this guy that's well-to-do, and they just so glad to be around his company, and that they've just got hornswoggled. They got hornswoggled like no other. McCoy said, we're talking about Ron McCoy here. Ron McCoy said, Devil Anse was the Donald Trump of the day in Appalachia. Ron McCoy. Devil Anse was the Donald Trump. Donald Trump killed people. Donald Trump stole from people. Donald Trump instigated others and manipulated them to go burn people's houses down? Donald Trump, I don't think there's no comparison at all to Donald Trump. Devil Anse was a murderer, a deserter, a manipulator, instigator. You don't want to hear all of it. You've heard me before. But he was. He was. That's not Fred McCoy. That's history, guys. That's reading court testimony. That's reading people's written statements that were called up later on in the feud. That's talking from his friends and family. His family members said he put out shoot him on sight, his brother, a hit on him, shoot him on sight because he wouldn't join in and help kill some McCoys with him. That's the kind of fellow we're talking about. But Ron McCoy now, Ron McCoy's this guy right there. That's Ron McCoy. That's William Keith Hatfield. Here's Rio Hatfield. There's Ron McCoy in Rio. Bad picture, but again, we got in there. But Ron McCoy says he built and made a family fortune on his own, and you have to give him credit for that, McCoy said. Devil Anse was a self-made, and that is respectable. This man was the Jesse James and Frank James of Logan County and Pike County, Kentucky, and Logan County, West Virginia. He was the Jesse James during the 1800s. Randolph McCoy, this is Ron. This is supposedly Randolph McCoy's great-great-great-grandson. Now, Again, we've never seen no DNA from Ron McCoy. We would love to see Ron McCoy's DNA. First of all, let's see if he's actually even really related to Randall McCoy, because it sure don't sound like it. It don't sound like it.
No. Sad.
Randolph McCoy lost everything he had. He lost his wife and eventually moved to Pikeville. His house is still standing. He doesn't say he lost his wife because they beat the shit out of her. He don't say that she died a year or so later after the cabin beating and burning. He doesn't say that Randall McCoy moved to Pikeville because he had to. He had no home. His home had been burned down and 2 more of his children killed. He doesn't say that. This is supposedly the great-great-great-grandson of Randall McCoy, and this man, along with Rio Hatfield and Bo McCoy, signs a peace treaty, saying that they wanted something in writing. We've done had 2 peace treaties, and there's actually one in writing there from the 70s as a joke, a prank more or less, and it would be self-promoted, so we won't discuss that one. But there actually was one, but it doesn't matter. Who needs something in writing? We're from the mountains. In the mountains, a man's handshake is his bond.
That's exactly right.
A man's word is his bond. You don't need handshakes unless you're dealing with characters like this, and then a handshake wouldn't mean diddly. No more than this writing. No more than those signatures at the bottom of that so-called. And Henry says, oh, along with this rifle, if you buy this rifle, we'll send you a copy of the famous Hatfield McCoy peace treaty. It ain't worth starting a fire with. It ain't worth starting a fire with. It's garbage. It was a publicity stunt during the worst time next to Pearl Harbor, during the worst time in American history. Pearl Harbor was terrible, but 911 was right up there with it. And they act like it was in regards to 911. We've got to settle this feud so we can all come together and fight terrorists. Man, Hatfields and McCoys back home in Kentucky and West Virginia's got along since before, during, and after the feud. This was 2 different families. This was no more than 2 families. 12 people killed in all during the Hatfield McCoy feud. Ron McCoy says, he's talking about Pigeon Forge, he's talking about the Hatfield McCoy Dinner Theater, which I also seen where Rio Hatfield, he's got it down on the wall. He says he don't like publicity, but boy, he made a big scene at the Hatfield McCoy Dinner Theater. But Ron McCoy says, it doesn't bother the family. So if it doesn't bother the family, it shouldn't bother anyone. Really?
Wow.
Is he talking for Fred McCoy?
Wow.
Is he talking for Fred McCoy? It doesn't bother the McCoy family? Yeah, I've talked to several people over the years that's not like what they do in the Hatfield McCoy Dinner Theater, making fun of two different families' names, having a good time of it. These are people that died. These are people that suffered during the feud. Hatfields and McCoys. You know, it goes on here and it says the firearm was engraved with Big Boy. You know, they've got, on one side of this gun, they got Randall and Asa. You can see it on the TV better. Mm-hmm. On one side, on the stock of the gun, it's not real good here, but on the stock of the gun, it's just got the Hatfields and McCoy, the famous Hatfield McCoy picture there. Yeah. But on the other side of the stock, it's got Randall McCoy's cabin. You can't see it. Rob McCoy didn't care enough about Randall McCoy and his family, his so-called great-great-great-grandparents, to put that picture of the whale. There's Randall McCoy and Jim McCoy and a bunch of family members that had returned to the well years later to go up on the hill and visit the graves of their 6 children. That would have been a good place for that picture, but no, I'd say Ron didn't even know about the picture. Ron is, you know, he didn't know he was even related to Randall McCoy till he was 35 years old, he says in his book. But he gives you the history of the feud. Guys, I'm not going to drag this out. All you got to do is Google Henry Hatfield McCoy rifle, and it'll come up. And they got some pretty pictures. Beautiful gun. Beautiful gun. It's sad that Henry Rifle didn't do their research and didn't find out that they was fooling with some frauds. That these guys had nothing more than the last name, Hatfield and McCoy, and they're milking it, and they're acting like they're speaking for the rest of us. They represent the rest of us. Look at the people, about 60-some people that was there when they dedicated, when they done. That's only because the CBS Morning Show or something was there. They want a handful of people that even showed up during that day, and most of them wasn't even related. It's just sad. It is sad that it's come to this point, and I'm sorry to do these videos, but this is my only way for an outlet to try to correct history, to correct these fictitious and made-up stories and peace treaties. And these guys here signed a peace treaty between them, and one of them, the Hatfield, makes up a story on a war hero, World War II veteran, Hubert Bay McCoy, makes up a story that he was in a brothel and shot his grandfather in the back 3 times. Ron and Bo McCoy files a lawsuit against an innocent man and his wife that done nothing more than didn't want to charge people to go on a cemetery. And they shake hands and sign their names to this piece of paper and saying they're calling peace between the families. You've never heard Fred McCoy. Before 20 years ago, before they started coming out and doing this, and then it come to the point of where the more they did it, the better they got, the more they added. And it's come to the point of like the guy with the $1 million. Devil Anse had 1 million, 5 million, 4 million. Devil Anse had $7 million. And then finally you got to say, hey, enough. Enough. Where does it stop? These are the people that Pike County Tourism has represented them. Now, I realize that they have nobody else. None of the original Hatfields and McCoys from back home. I wish somebody would step up back home and start representing them so they could get away with the Oklahoma Hatfield, the Waynesboro, Virginia Hatfield, the Durham, North Carolina McCoy, the Waycross, Georgia McCoy. We're not interested. Sheila and I are not interested. I know we hear all kinds of things. There's all kinds of stories. There's all kinds of... But we're not. We don't even open up the family museum anymore.
You're doing good.
Guys, all I want to do is explain the truth to you. It's up to you to believe it. It's up to you to look at the evidence. Sheila will take pictures of all this. And other than that, Sheila will do the closing. Thank you all.
hope you're having a great morning. Please like, subscribe, and share. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.